Very warm welcome today, both to our esteemed guests and to all our viewers. Thank you so much for joining us on this ETHRWorld and Coursera Virtual Thought Leadership Series. We're here today to discuss such an interesting topic, which is crafting impactful learning experiences with new gen technology. And of course, to help us break this down, really understand the various aspects to it, where new gen technology stands today when it comes to learning experiences in the workplace, and of course, an exciting future outlook. We have joining us Neeru Mehta. She's a CHRO at Yellow.ai. Welcome, Neeru.
Thank you. Thank you, Devina.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining. And Arushee Aggarwal, Head of Coursera for Business, India. Hi, Arushee. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Devina.
Wonderful. So, ladies, again, of course, we're here to talk about the overall impact that new age technology has on the education and learning space, specifically in the workplace. So, Neeru, if you can help us just kickstart with understanding where today do you see the entire space of learning and development as it is, and how is technology impacting it? If you can give us a little bit of an overview.
I think the world, especially in the last 1 or 2 years, technology has always impacted learning. Right from the days when internet came in to, we've got these self-learning courses and, all of that to today where there is so much of AI and everything. The whole process of learning has become very immersive, very custom. It's like everybody has a personal journey. It's no longer about others and a group. It's become so much personal and about yourself, and technology is the biggest enabler. Now, what that technology has differed from decade to decade, and I was just speaking to someone yesterday who's kind of an AI guru, and one of the biggest things that I remember what he said was technology is easy, people are hard.
Hmm.
So, we know that, there is a big advent of AI in the last 12 months and 12 to 16 months after the whole OpenAI episode happened. And still, when you actually look at the percentage of use cases or what's the kind of change that has come, especially if I talk about the HR space, it's still minimal.
Yeah.
And, there could be many reasons. Okay, especially in the HR space, it is a cost center. What is the ROI of all that technology deployment? Many, many reasons for why
Sure.
it's not happening as rapidly as we would have all thought. But I think nonetheless, technologies are, and especially, I mean, if I have to talk about today, custom learning powered by AI is here to kind of, stay and make a big mark. And people who kind of ride that wave, learning specialists who ride that wave, companies who kind of let organizations ride that wave are going to be very, very defining.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. And we're very much going to deep dive into the impact, especially of custom learning. Before that, Arushi, let's get you in on this little bit of context setting from you. Of course, you come with a very interesting perspective and positioning because you do deal with organizations across the board, across industries, across geographies. So, how do you see the impact of technology when it comes to learning and development?
Yeah, I think I would echo what Neeru said in terms of technology is always there. And, it's really about how do we leverage that. There's an interesting Microsoft study that says only 40% of technology investments are actually converted. So what this really means is that just by technology existing, it doesn't mean that we are able to leverage what it's been purchased for. And that is where I think learning becomes so important to leverage and provide the ROI of all the new technology that we have at our disposal to both be able to use it as well as understand what is really the from a productivity perspective that can come out of this. And the important variable in all of this is our employees who are the biggest assets, right? So technology along with the enabled workforce can create a lot of difference. Technology in itself will really not be able to make the mark that it has been invested in for.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Thank you for that. So, Neeru, just going a little bit deeper now, how would you say in your experience, new gen technology, so we're talking about AI, VR, AR, immersive tech, how do you see it really transforming a very traditional learning system and the traditional learning methodologies and some of the biggest benefits and impacts that you've seen so far?
Very interesting question, and I would have loved to ask, uh, some facts to Arushi also what she's seen. She's literally sitting in that domain. But as much as I read, as much as I understand, as much as I've experienced, AR, VR, very, very interesting, amazing. But its use case in learning, or like large scale transformation because AR, VR as a technology came in to enable learning. I've not seen it that rampant. I was also going through some researches, recently, and literally there was a survey that was conducted, and the whole survey was about which learning technology is going to impact most in 2024. And I'll send you the link later. But AR, VR literally came at, the survey result for that was almost 0%. So it's shocking for me to just read. And so I kind of read the whole thing. And of course, we have to understand. But what I earlier said, I think it's the custom personalized learning pathways and that whichever way they get enabled is what is going to be there. They're going to stay, they're going to, flourish in the ecosystem. This is what I'm seeing in my last organization. I actually worked on designing something that we at that point called Success Paths. It was an AI enabled app, literally helping every single person can have a very different journey, and based on the milestone that where they are today and what they choose as a success milestone, the whole learning path gets created and curated. Now, linked to that could be, some of the learning experience platforms. Linked to that could be the other infrastructure on the talent and learning that the company or the org has. But, this whole joining the dots and then creating the path, which is, of course, AI enabled. I see that as, as the solution, or what's really going to survive this whole wave.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really interesting. Arushi, I think great time for you to come in here again, as Neeru pointed
Like I said, I'd love to know from Arushi what is she seeing. Is it any different, especially on these technologies? I was kind of very surprised, but then it kind of validated what I was really not seeing around too much.
Sure. Yeah. So that's a really important component. Is there really a marked difference in the traditional teaching and learning methodologies now with the impact of AI and other emerging tech? And also, how is the whole customization journey going? Are we seeing those changes where organizations are really able to cater to the personal needs of employees as a result of this tech? What are your observations?
Absolutely. And, Neeru, I'll be glad to also echo what you shared, right? So I don't think AR, VR is the answer to any of these things. But having said that, the personalization, I think we are truly at the time where the aspiration of providing personalized learning has always been there for organizations, for learning professionals, and even for learners. That's been the need. But I think with AI, we actually are able to see a future where this is possible to provide. And I'll just break down the how and fully agree on your point on the journeys that each individual needs to take, because at the end of the day, it is not just a point in time, but it is across many moments within the day to day and the career as well. So the first thing that I'll share is every individual, especially from an enterprise learning or learning as a working professional, their journey doesn't start from zero. They will always have some level of skilling, which may be, at the 10% level, 20% level, whatever that might be. So the first step that AI can provide from a personalization perspective is really the level set of them not starting and learning what they already know, but starting from what they don't know. So how do you personalize the content recommendations based on their current proficiency in the skilling? So I think that's the first thing. Second is every individual has a different preference of what is it that they like to learn, what are the various skills. So rather than having one curriculum for 500 people, how can there be a role-based personalized learning journey where an individual enters that I am a new manager in this domain, or I'm a data scientist, or I'm an analyst. And then AI is able to tell on the basis of, for example, on the Coursera platform, there is 150 million learners with various job roles. how are they learning, what are the skills that are required, and so on, and then to be able to provide that. So that's the second thing, which is personalizing their learning journey for it to be contextual and so on. And third is organizational context. So we have actually pioneered a product called Course Builder, where we're saying there is 200,000 clips and 10,000 courses on Coursera, but you might only want parts of it. And you don't want instructional designers to spend days and hours creating this. So how do we leverage AI? Where through natural language inputs, through English inputs, you mentioned, these are my course objectives, this is the module length, this is what I want to do. And AI actually creates a personalized module for you with videos, quizzes, assessments, everything that the platform has to offer. And then, of course, that can be modified, right? So I would say this is the fourth thing. The third thing. The fourth thing is actually a two-way interaction where a learner feels like there is somebody with me on the journey. And I think AI has a fantastic ability to provide in-time, smart recommendations and a discussion. And for that, we've actually also created a product called Coursera Coach, where you enter your questions, you try to get a summary of what you've learned, you ask for practice questions, you upload your own document and you say, let's dialogue on this as a thought partner. So really personalized. So I think, the opportunities are endless. And the last part that I'll add is through machine translations, providing the same quality of learning to folks who don't have English as their first language or their business language, which really makes it so accessible. So I think, AI is really doing a fantastic job on truly personalizing learning, getting the right outcomes, and benefiting organizations, learning professionals, as well as learners.
Yes, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Arushi. So, we kind of get a much clearer picture now on the use cases, the utility, the various ways in which organizations can, of course, leverage emerging tech. But, Neeru, what would you say also are some of the challenges? Because surely integration of this new advanced emerging technology within the existing systems and organizations when it comes to learning and development must pose certain, perhaps, barriers to entry or all kinds of challenges. So, could you take us through some of the challenges, please, and any of the effective solutions that you've seen?
Like I said earlier, technology is easy, humans are difficult. Right. And so I think some of the challenges with the new technology is, of course, uh, AI, for example, it still hallucinates, there's still issues, it's also not totally foolproof, like AI agents and all, some of those things will evolve. And fortunately or unfortunately, we expect more from machine than from humans. Right? A machine has to be foolproof. Humans definitely can be. There's a scope of error, right? So therefore, adoption of a machine kind of always takes time, effort. But I also think it's a very unique opportunity for companies that are progressive, for leaders who are progressive, who want to get differentiated, to literally, build a solid business case linked to the matrix and ROI for the company. I think that ability to not do that is the reason, to a certain extent, why you kind of don't see those mass transformations happening. It's happening in the space, if you look at schools, EdTech, if you look at, in that space, I was wondering, it's happening more there than if you see organizations. Their adoption of a lot of technologies and adoption and rigor. I'd call it rigor because that when you compare it to, let's say, schools and kids and those who are preparing high schoolers, all of that, it's kind of imperative. Their future kind of is depending on what they do, and how they learn. And as professionals, we kind of think we have a choice. And this is something around 15 years back also, when I was used to like have a discussion on learning with the high potentials in the company, I would say, this is your career insurance. If you don't invest in learning, technology, I'll just keep aside for a minute. You're going to be like, at one time redundant. At that time, we used to say that shelf life of any skill is 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years, whatever. It was still more. Now I would say the shelf life of any skill could just be 6 months, or it will come and go. So if you're not kind of in that groove, or always on on that curve, you will it'll, it's very easy to not be relevant. So I think, like, establishing that, creating that mindset, which is of course dependent on ROI to the certain extent, but a shift where I need to do this irrespective of whatever, as a professional. And then, of course, it has to be, the talent infrastructure of a company is not just HR's responsibility. So therefore, the ownership has to be widespread and enabled. So the talent infrastructure needs to be very, very rightly put in by all the key stakeholders inside the organization. The outcomes need to be delivered. I think quick wins followed by pilots, followed by large scale phased transformations is the way to go. You never change in a day. So I think I would run this like, start small, quick wins, keep going along that path. Uh,
Wonderful.
is would be the approach. But yeah, a lot of, it's not something you see happening.
Sure. Wonderful. Thanks for that breakdown. Really clear step-by-step process of how
Slightly
organizations.
long answer, but I'm kind of very passionate, and this applies to so many other changes that you need to bring about. It's no different here.
Absolutely. It's a holistic organization wide shift that needs to happen eventually. So, yeah, wonderful. Thank you for that. Arushi, again, very interesting now to understand from Coursera's perspective, because, of course, you're known for innovation. You're known for breaking the boundaries when it comes to development in L&D, of course, and all the courses that you offer. So, could you give us a little bit of insight on how exactly Coursera is harnessing advancing technology? Of course, we're talking a lot about AI these days. So, some of the practical ways in which Coursera is implementing this on the programs that you offer on your platform.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Happy to do that. And I think the point around skilling is so imperative, right? Because one is the shelf life of the skills. The second is there is a study which says about 49% of all of the global workforce will have about half of their job tasks being impacted by large language models, which is now suddenly they have 50% of their time available to be able to productively use. So only when they have learned skills relevant to their role or their next role or something lateral can organizations use that additional time available, right? Which is why skilling and just having a broad but also deep set of skills becomes important. No longer can you just be a specialist and sort of thrive in that environment, right? There is a broad-based skilling which is required at every level and for every function. So, with this context, what we've tried to do is, given our background, our founder is a Stanford professor, Dr. Andrew Ng, and he's actually been teaching artificial intelligence for the last 30 years. And he likes to say that AI will be the new electricity. And what that really means is that we will all be users of AI as we are of electricity. There'll be some who will be producer roles, who will actually be creating use cases and looking at how AI needs to be developed from a product perspective, and others will be consumers and they will need to have a good sense of how they can really leverage this in a good manner, right? So this is the clear distinction. And with this in mind, we have adopted a holistic approach where we have said one is Gen AI skilling and technology skilling, which is actually teaching the content. And the other is how can we walk the talk from a product innovation side. So I briefly touched upon Coursera Course Builder, which is our AI authoring tool, Coach, which is a real-time assistant, all of the important things from a technology platform perspective, which is, having transcripts, having subtitles, having videos which are bite-sized, having the ability to bundle, unbundle. And the last thing that we really believe at Coursera is that learning is not about videos watched, it is about the skills that you have gained. So how can we enable both the learners as well as their managers to be able to assess these? So all of our platform is based on the 85,000 skills through the Burning Glass Institute, research, collaboration, and others, where every single piece of learning will be supported by, short quizzes or capstone projects and so on, to be able to measure how individuals are moving from beginner to intermediate to advanced. in what is required. So I think here is the three-pronged approach that we have, which is having the right content for the technology areas that is needed, having the platform features through technology which support all of these things, and then translating this into learner requirements, which may be niche, but are very important for final outcomes. So that's the approach that we've adopted, and fortunate to continue to get feedback from the organizations that we serve and from the learners to continue to improve the platform.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that's a great job and a great task that you have in hand, and really wonderful contribution to all the organizations you work with, surely. Ladies, thank you. You've given us so much insight on, of course, the current status of the L&D space when it comes to introduction of new technologies, the challenges. Let's slowly wrap up this conversation with your future outlook. I'd love to understand from each of you how you see the learning and development space evolving, let's say over the next decade or so. What do you think will be the impact of technology, and how do you really see all these highly customized experiences that we've been talking about, really understanding and catering to employee needs and development programs? How do you see that being increased in the next decade, Neeru?
It's a very loaded question, by the way. If I had a crystal ball, that would be amazing. But I think this it it kind of will become almost a no choice situation, according to me. And we're seeing what's happening. Every month, I'm saying this from a very practical lens. I've got two daughters, and I really think, what should I invest? What should they learn? What should they be doing? Right? And because you do want them to be a little future ready, right? But there is the only thing that comes to your mind is be agile, have a learning mindset, keep have a lot of adaptability, so the softer areas become like so much more critical. So, because the world is definitely going to go in that direction, the organizations will definitely leverage technology. We're already seeing that. If I see the business part of the world, look at how the whole customer service solutions. My company is in that space, right? And how that whole the CX is enabling like kind of customer experiences that you cannot think at scale at all. If you just think, like we just put those many people behind, enabling a good experience for your customer. But with technology, uh, AI agents, it's kind of become a reality. Everybody's having a personal experience. They're purchasing, they're returning, they're talking, they're kind of getting advised by technology. So I think similar thing is going to happen. I think, I don't know if I'm wrong, but not even 5 years from now, but 2 to 3 years from now, I think we are going to be in that space with our digital avatars, our AI assistants who kind of will read this screen, and they would just know, what do we need to learn? How are we performing? What is the gap in this conversation that I had with Devina and Arushee? How could I have prepared more? Like, it's going to become that much uh, that quick and that impactful. And organizations, I think, need to really like start thinking the AI roadmap from a learning standpoint. People should start putting that together. Companies like Coursera, like what Arushi is saying, I think they are taking that lead in kind of defining what that next phase could look like. And I think practitioners like myself need to take leverage of that, in the companies that we work. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Really exciting. And thank you for addressing that loaded question. I know it is with so much clarity. Arushi, I'm sure you also have some great perspective on where you see the space going in the next decade.
Yeah, I love to say that there are only two constants, change and learning. So, we always have to keep learning, and change is something that we have to anticipate. So, it's a very exciting space to be in. And what I've really observed is that, if I were to think about how maybe the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years will really look like, I think if you look at the customer in the center, who is the learner, their
Hmm.
expectations are the same from an e-commerce or a quick commerce platform, a learning platform, like a website and things like that, right? So they don't have lower expectations because they have seen what is really top class. So I think, any company which really is at the top of their game, we'll need to focus on the right UI, UX, the right kind of personalization and engagement, and being able to do all of these things. So I think having the mindset of not just looking at your immediate competition, but learning from the best in every industry to be able to actually progress both self as well as the organization is going to become critical. So, there's a lot more to learn, but the standards are continuing to rise for every organization and individual. So, as long as people are able to be ahead of the curve, prepared for this change, I think they'll really be able to do well in each of their individual roles.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. That's such a exciting future outlook that you both left us with. Thank you for all your insights today on ETHR World and Coursera Virtual Thought Leadership Series, ladies. Great to understand from you what crafting impactful learning experiences with new gen technology will look like in the future and how it stands today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you,
Thank
Devina.
you.